"Ma'am? You can't just stand there. Do you know where you are?" The voice echoed faintly across the empty lot, but by then, Maya Williams was already moving. She had spotted the woman moments earlier staggering near the edge of the gas station lot like her legs no longer knew how to hold her. One trembling step, then another, and then she collapsed. Just dropped to the cold concrete beside the overflowing trash bin, her frail body curling inward like a fallen leaf. No one else saw it. The intersection was empty. The Quick Fuel Mart had one bored clerk behind thick glass, eyes fixed on his phone. Cars passed without slowing, and the old woman who might have been invisible to everyone else was the only thing Maya could focus on. She sprinted. "Mom, are you hurt?" Maya dropped to her knees beside the woman, heart pounding. The woman didn't answer. She wasn't bleeding, but her hands were shaking, and her breath came in thin, uneven gasps. Her dress was pale gray and far too thin for the Chicago wind. Her hair, silver white, had come undone in the fall. Very slowly, the woman lifted her face. Her eyes were pale blue, distant. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I don't know where I was going." Maya exhaled, her breath visible in the cold air. "It's okay, you fell, but I've got you now." The voice from earlier, "Ma'am, you can't just stand there," came from the gas station clerk, leaning out now with mild concern. Maya glanced up at him, then back at the woman. "Do you know your name?" she asked gently. The woman blinked slowly. I think my name is Eleanor." Maya's hands tightened around the woman's shoulders. "Do you know where you live?" Eleanor shook her head. "I was supposed to call someone, but I can't remember the number." Maya didn't ask any more. She simply shrugged off her hoodie and wrapped it around Eleanor's narrow frame. Then, bracing herself, she slipped an arm under the woman's back and helped her to her feet, slow and careful. "Okay," Maya said softly. "Then let's just get you somewhere warm." She looked around. Still no one. No one had even stopped walking. Just Maya, and the night wind, and this fragile woman who had dropped out of someone's world and landed in hers. They walked slowly 2 blocks past cracked sidewalks and flickering street lamps to the narrow red brick apartment building Maya called home. Inside, Grandma Louise was watching her church program with the volume low. She looked up the moment Maya stepped in with an old woman wrapped in her hoodie and an expression that begged for 1 second of understanding. "Who?" she started. "She fell," Maya said. "By the gas station. Didn't know who to call. She didn't want police." Grandma Louise stood, looked Eleanor over, saw the trembling fingers, the distant stare, the paper-thin dress. Then she turned toward the kitchen. "I'll put on some tea." Eleanor was guided into the kitchen and seated at the table. Maya offered a cushion. The chair creaked beneath the woman's light weight. "What kind of tea do you like?" Grandma asked as the kettle began to hum. Eleanor's lips twitched into something almost like a smile. "Jasmine, if you have it." They did. Maya sat across from her. "Is Eleanor your full name?" "I think so," the woman replied, fingers cradling the warm mug. "I remember a garden, roses, and someone used to call me Ellie. That was a long time ago, I think." Her voice drifted like smoke soft, uncertain. Maya glanced at the photo on the fridge. Her mother, smiling in the sunlight, long before the accident. Eleanor followed her gaze. "She looks kind," she murmured. By midnight, Eleanor had dozed off on the couch with a folded blanket over her knees. Maya placed a second pillow beneath her head, adjusted the hoodie wrapped around her like a shawl, and turned off the lamp. As she stood in the hallway, brushing her teeth, Grandma appeared beside her. "You sure about this?" Maya nodded. She needed someone to see her. Grandma looked back toward the couch. That's what the world's forgotten how to do. Maya didn't sleep much that night. Something about Eleanor's presence lingered in the room like a question waiting for an answer. But when morning came, the couch was empty. No jacket, no blanket, just a rinsed cup on the drying rack and a folded napkin on the table with 2 words, written in looping, shaky script. "Thank you." Maya froze. And there, beneath the napkin, was a small, cream-colored card. No logo, no return address. Just one line on the back in faint gold ink. Renford House, Northfield. And beneath that, in barely legible handwriting, "You saw me. That's more than most." Maya blinked, then folded the card, placed it in her backpack and whispered, "I'll find you." Maya sat at the kitchen table long after the sun had crept through the blinds, the napkin still in her hand, the name Renford House etched into her thoughts like a half-remembered song. She hadn't told Grandma Louise yet, not about the card, not about the note, not about the way Eleanor had disappeared as quietly as she had arrived. Across the table, Grandma poured syrup onto a stack of pancakes. "You haven't touched your plate," she said gently, her voice the same tone she used when something was wrong but she didn't want to push. "I'm not hungry," Maya murmured. Grandma didn't argue. She just reached over, patted Maya's hand once, and said, "She was here for a reason. People don't just fall into your life like that without one." Maya nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. She'd looked up Renford House on her phone. Nothing. No official website. No social media. The card hadn't even included a zip code. Just Northfield. An hour north of the city. It might as well have been another country for a girl without a car or a driver's license. The rest of the day unfolded in slow motion. Maya worked a short shift at the bakery, but her hands moved on autopilot. The smells of cinnamon and flour didn't reach her. Every bag she handed to a customer felt heavier than usual. She kept checking her phone like something might change, like Eleanor might call. But of course, Eleanor didn't have her number. Maya hadn't given her any except a hoodie and a warm couch. That evening, as the city light shifted to gold, Maya sat cross-legged on her bed, staring at the card again. The handwriting on the back was uneven but elegant. "You saw me. That's more than most." She didn't know what it meant. Not fully, but she felt it in her chest like a tiny pulse. She had seen Eleanor. She'd noticed. And for some reason, that had mattered. Still, doubt crept in. What if she imagined the whole thing? What if she had helped a confused woman who wandered off and never thought about her again? What if the card was meaningless? The question sat heavy until well after midnight. The next morning, Maya took the card out again. She turned it over, again and again, until finally she stuffed it into the side pocket of her backpack and left without a word to Grandma. She walked 5 blocks to the library, logged into the community computer, and started searching again. This time she typed the full phrase, "Renford House, Northfield, Illinois." It took scrolling past several nursing homes and historic sites before something clicked. An article. 5 years old. Buried deep on a local history blog. Renford House. Estate of Chicago's most reclusive financial architect. Maya clicked. The article was brief but vivid. A sprawling red brick estate hidden behind high hedges and iron gates. Originally owned by Gerald Renford, a steel magnate turned venture capitalist, and passed down to his daughter Eleanor Renford. Little was known about her except that she had run the family trust for 2 decades before vanishing from the public eye after a series of private health battles. One sentence stood out. "Eleanor Renford hasn't made a public appearance since 2015. Maya leaned back in her chair. So it was her. Not just a woman named Eleanor, but that Eleanor. A woman with power, legacy, and wealth, who had once controlled billions and who had stood, trembling and lost, outside a gas station while the world walked past her. Maya felt her throat tighten. She stood abruptly, logged out, and left the library. At home, Grandma Louise was watering her spider plant by the window. "You skipped breakfast," she said without turning around. "Grandma," Maya began carefully, "do you remember that woman from the other night?" Grandma turned, brow raised. "The one with the jasmine tea?" Maya nodded. "I think she used to be rich. Like, really rich. Like Forbes, rich." Grandma blinked once. And I think she lived in Northfield. There's this estate called Renford House. She might still be there." Grandma studied her for a moment. "What do you want to do, baby?" "I want to go," Maya said. "I need to know if she's okay." Or if. I imagined all of it. You didn't imagine her, Grandma said softly. You carried her in your arms. If you feel a connection with Maya, give this video a like to empower others who are being overlooked out there. And don't forget to comment where you're watching from. Someone nearby might be watching this story right along with you. Maya's eyes shimmered, but she swallowed it down. I can't drive you, Grandma added. But the 82 bus goes north. Transfer once. Might get you close. That night, Maya packed her backpack with 2 granola bars, a bottle of water, her charger, and the card. She tucked it into the notebook she used for poems, right behind a page that read, "Maybe kindness is the last thing we still control." The next morning, just after dawn, Maya stood at the corner of 87th and Lafayette, waiting for the bus. Her hoodie zipped tight, her fingers in her pockets. The ride took almost 2 hours with the transfer. She watched the city shift as they moved. Murals gave way to brick fences. Discount stores faded into boutiques with cursive lettering and clean windows. The bus stopped at Oak Lane, and Maya got off. The map showed one more turn. She walked half a mile, her sneakers quiet on the manicured sidewalks. Finally, at the end of the block, she saw it. A wrought iron gate, ornate and black like lace. No buzzer, no camera. Just a nameplate embedded into the stone. Renford House. Maya stood there for a moment, heart beating too fast, the air too still. She took a step forward. The gate creaked open by itself. And standing just beyond it, in a navy blue suit, was a woman with gray-streaked hair and calm eyes. She held a clipboard and smiled faintly, as if she had been waiting. "Miss Maya Williams?" she asked. Maya nodded slowly. "She's in the garden," the woman said. "She doesn't like walls too much these days." Maya followed, past a marble fountain, past trimmed hedges, past 2 oaks older than time, and around the last bend, beneath a canopy of white flowers, sat Eleanor, wrapped in a soft shawl, hands folded, face turned toward the sun. Her eyes opened. "You came," she whispered. "I did," Maya said, voice almost cracking. Eleanor patted the bench beside her. Maya sat, every question she had dissolving in the silence between them. Just being there was enough. The bench was wooden, old, and warm from the sun. Maya sat with her hands clasped in her lap, trying to find the right words, but they didn't come. Eleanor didn't press. She just watched the wind shift through the hydrangeas, her expression serene, almost unreadable. "I wasn't sure you'd remember me," Maya said finally. Eleanor smiled faintly. "I forget many things, but not kindness. That tends to leave a deeper imprint." They sat in quiet for a moment longer, the birds chirping softly in the branches above them. The stillness wasn't uncomfortable, it was full, like the silence that falls in a church when something sacred is happening. Maya glanced at the woman beside her. Eleanor looked different in the daylight, in her own space. She was still delicate, yes, but there was a sharpness to her posture, a residual strength that hadn't left her completely. Even with the soft cardigan draped over her shoulders, she still carried herself like someone who used to command rooms. "You didn't tell me who you were," Maya said gently. "I didn't remember who I was," Eleanor replied, turning toward her. "Or maybe I remembered and didn't want to go back to it. I used to live behind numbers, titles, contracts. None of it meant anything when I stood at that curb." Maya lowered her gaze. "You were lost." "No," Eleanor said quietly. "I was invisible." Maya didn't respond, but something in her chest shifted like a tight knot uncoiling. "Do you know what people see when they look at someone old and confused, alone on a city corner?" Eleanor continued. "They see a problem to avoid, a delay, maybe a mistake in the system. They don't see a life." "I did," Maya whispered. "I know," Eleanor said. "That's why you're here." Maya looked down at the gravel beneath their feet. "I didn't do anything special. I just couldn't walk away." "Exactly." Eleanor's voice was steady, but her hands were trembling slightly now. "The world measures things in money, power, visibility. But you saw me when I was nothing but a shadow of a name. That matters more than you realize." Maya hesitated. "Can I ask something?" "Of course. Why me? Why leave that card? Why invite me here?" Eleanor reached into her shawl and slowly pulled out a folded envelope, sealed with a paperclip. Her fingers lingered on it for a moment before she placed it in Maya's hands. "This," she said, "is for you. Not because you helped me, but because I want to help you build something." Maya opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a letter, typed but signed in ink. It was addressed to a legal firm, Renford Trust Holdings, Private Affairs Division, and it stated, in clear language, that a fully funded educational endowment was to be created in the name of Maya Williams. Full tuition, housing, books, supplies, anywhere she chose. Maya read it twice, then a third time. I don't understand." Eleanor leaned back, eyes half closed. "I don't need another estate. I don't need more marble or another painting on a wall. But I would like to help build something real, something that carries forward what I lost sight of for too long." Maya's hands trembled now too. The letter felt heavier than paper. "But I didn't earn this. I didn't prove anything." "You didn't have to," Eleanor said. "That's the point. You didn't ask who I was. You didn't Google my name. You just gave me your hoodie and your time. In a world that scrolls past every broken thing, you stopped. That's a kind of courage people underestimate." Maya blinked, trying to keep her vision clear. "I don't know what to say." "Then don't," Eleanor said softly. "Just do something honest with it, something good." A breeze moved through the garden. A single white petal landed on the envelope in Maya's lap. She brushed it off slowly, her breath shaky. They sat there a while longer, talking about little things. Jasmine always reminded Eleanor of summer in the Carolinas, how Maya once tried to grow basil in a windowsill and killed it in 3 days. It was easy, natural. For a moment, the age difference dissolved, the classes disappeared, and the garden became neutral ground, where two lives had collided without warning, but with reason. Before Maya left, Eleanor placed a hand gently on hers. "Promise me something?" Maya nodded. "Don't let them turn this into a headline." "I won't. They'll try. They'll want to make it about optics, about charity. But this isn't about either. It's about being human, and being seen." Maya held her gaze. "I promise." Eleanor smiled, a real one this time. Not faded, not distant, just warm. As Maya walked back down the stone path toward the front gate, the woman in the navy blue suit waited with the same quiet expression. "She's different when she's here," the woman said as she opened the gate. "She's exactly the same," Maya replied. "The world just forgot how to look." The ride home was quiet. Maya didn't pull out the envelope. She didn't reread the letter. She just kept her fingers on the zipper of her backpack and looked out the window as the clean sidewalks turned back into cracked concrete. The hedges faded into chain-link fences, and the silence in her heart grew into something steady. That night, she didn't tell Grandma about the letter. Not yet. Instead, she taped Eleanor's card to her wall above her desk, right beside her poem notebook. In the morning, she would go to school like normal. She'd take her test in chemistry. She'd wipe down tables at the bakery. No cameras, no applause. But she would walk differently. She would listen closer. Because now, Maya understood. Not all legacies are written in granite or marble. Some arrive quietly, wrapped in shawls, whispering forgotten names. And sometimes, the only thing they need is to be seen. 3 days passed. Then 4. The world returned to its rhythm, loud, fast, forgetful. Maya went to school. She took her chemistry test. She folded aprons at the bakery. Eleanor's card still hung above her desk, but it didn't glow or pulse with magic. It just stayed, like something finished, like something quiet, until the black sedan pulled up outside her building. It was early evening. Maya had just stepped out onto the porch to shake the crumbs off a dish towel when the sleek car eased to a stop at the curb. A man in a tailored gray suit stepped out, briefcase in one hand, polished shoes silent on the concrete. He looked completely out of place among the chipping paint and crooked mailboxes. "Maya Williams?" he asked, his voice smooth but careful. Maya blinked. "Yes?" The man extended a business card between two fingers. "Carter Lynn. Legal Affairs. Renford Trust." Maya stared at the card. The same embossed gold lettering. The same name she had seen on the envelope from the garden. She felt the weight return to her chest, slow and pressing. "She asked me to deliver this personally," he said. He handed her a leather folder, thin, but unmistakably official. Not plastic, not cheap, not anything that belonged on this porch. Grandma Louise stepped outside just then, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "You good, baby?" Maya nodded, but her fingers were already opening the clasp. The folder creaked softly as it gave way. Inside were documents, thick paper, stamped and notarized. Her name appeared multiple times. Maya Williams. Recipient. Beneficiary. Authorized student. The final page included a breakdown of funds, tuition, room and board, materials, travel support. A number sat at the bottom, bigger than anything Maya had ever seen. It didn't look like a gift. It looked like a future. Grandma sank slowly onto the porch steps beside her. "Lord have mercy," she whispered. Carter Lynn gave a respectful nod. "The terms have already been executed. We just needed to confirm delivery. If you need anything, my contact information is in the folder." He turned, walked back to the car, and left. No small talk, no photo op, just business. But this wasn't business. This was something else. That night, Maya sat at the kitchen table with Grandma, the folder between them. The television was off. The room was quiet. "I don't know how to thank her," Maya said. Grandma shook her head. "That's not what this is about. Some thanks don't need words. They need living right." Maya nodded, chewing the inside of her cheek. "Do I tell people?" "You tell who you need to. But you don't owe nobody a story. Except the story wouldn't stay quiet." It started small. A local teacher mentioned Maya's name in a school board meeting. Someone from the neighborhood posted a photo of the Renford car. Then the City Digest picked up a version of it. "Teen's act of kindness opens unlikely door." Then came the call from a radio station. Then a journalist emailed the school. The headline on a viral post read, "The girl who stopped and changed everything." Maya walked through the hallway at school and felt the eyes. Not cruel, not mocking, just new, curious. Like people were seeing her for the first time, but not as Maya, as a symbol. Some classmates congratulated her. Some teachers pulled her aside and said they were proud. One girl from the volleyball team who'd never said a word to Maya before asked if they could hang out sometime. Maya smiled, nodded. But something inside her pulled back. She had done something small. She had helped someone stand up. But now it felt like people were trying to paint a mural from a single line. That Friday, her English teacher, Miss Devereaux, asked if she'd come speak at a community youth center downtown. "Just a few words," she said. "Just to tell the story from your side." Maya hesitated. "I'm not really a speaker." "You're not supposed to be," Miss Devereaux replied, "but maybe someone needs to hear it." The rec room at the youth center smelled like popcorn and cleaning spray. Folding chairs formed a half circle, maybe 30 kids. Some younger, some older. Most of them looked tired in the way only city kids could be, eyes older than their age, shoulders already bearing invisible weight. Maya stood at the front with her notebook, but she didn't read from it. "I almost didn't stop," she began. "That night, when I saw her, I thought this isn't my problem. I was tired, cold. My shift had just ended." She looked at them. Really looked. But then I thought, what if that was my grandma? What if that was me 20 years from now? Would someone stop then? The room was still. I didn't do anything special. I just noticed. A beat of silence followed, then soft applause, a few nods. One boy in the back lifted his head a little higher. That night, on the bus ride home, Maya didn't look at her phone. She watched the city lights slide past the window liquor stores, laundromats, corner diners. People moved through it all without seeing each other. She kept thinking about what Eleanor had said. You didn't ask who I was. You just saw me. That night, Maya slipped the letter from Eleanor into the back of her poetry notebook, behind the page that read, "Not all storms announce themselves. Some just need shelter." She didn't want to be a headline. She didn't need to be a hero. She just wanted to keep noticing. And maybe, just maybe, help someone else feel seen too. It had been nearly 3 weeks since Maya last saw Eleanor. Not a day passed without someone bringing up her name on the sidewalk, in the school hallway, even at the bakery where regulars who'd never looked at her twice now smiled and asked, "You're that girl, right?" She'd nod, say thank you, and get back to wiping counters. But in all the noise, Maya began to miss the quiet. Not just the hush of the garden or Eleanor's soft voice, but the stillness of that moment when the world had paused, when it had just been two people, a bench, and sunlight. So, on a cloudy Sunday, Maya boarded the 82 bus again. She didn't tell Grandma this time. She just left a note on the kitchen table that read, "I need to see her." The ride was quieter than she remembered, or maybe her thoughts were just louder. She held her backpack close and kept her hand over the inner pocket, where Eleanor's note still lived, folded neatly behind the scholarship letter. She didn't need to look at it anymore. She had memorized the last line, "You don't owe the world a performance. Just keep paying attention." When she reached Northfield, the streets were hushed. Even the houses looked more still than usual, like the whole neighborhood was holding its breath. Maya walked the final few blocks, sneakers brushing damp leaves from the pavement, until she stood again at the Renford gate. It opened without a sound. The same woman from before greeted her at the door. She wore a cardigan this time, navy blue with silver buttons, and a small pin shaped like a gardenia. "She's in the sunroom," the woman said softly. "She likes the light more these days." Maya nodded. She walked down the long hallway with its antique sideboards and silent paintings, then turned left where the wooden floor met pale marble. The door to the sunroom stood slightly ajar. She pushed it open. Eleanor sat on a chaise by the wide glass window, wrapped in a cashmere shawl, legs curled beneath her like she'd been waiting for tea that never came. The garden outside shimmered with a gentle drizzle, and the ivy on the walls climbed higher than before. Maya stepped in. "You look well." Eleanor turned, her eyes clearer than Maya remembered. "I feel present." Maya sat in the armchair across from her. For a while, neither of them spoke. Finally, Eleanor broke the silence. "They're making quite a fuss about you, aren't they?" Maya sighed. "Too much. They want to give you an award?" 3. Eleanor smiled. "Will you accept them?" "I don't know," Maya admitted. "It doesn't feel like mine. Not really." "It is. Not because of what you did, but because of why you did it." Maya leaned forward. "I didn't know who you were. I didn't do it for recognition." "And that," Eleanor said, "is exactly why you deserve it." Another pause. Eleanor looked down at her hands. "Do you know what the hardest part of getting old is?" Maya shook her head. "It's not the memory loss, or the ache in your bones. It's becoming irrelevant in the eyes of the world. It's the way people stop listening, stop asking, stop seeing." Maya swallowed. "I see you. I know." Eleanor looked up. "That's why I asked for you." Maya blinked. "What do you mean?" Eleanor gestured to a small end table beside her. On it sat a plain white envelope, sealed with wax. "I've been writing goodbye letters," she said. "Just a few. For people I remembered when I wasn't trying to. You're one of them." Maya hesitated before reaching for the envelope. She didn't open it. Not yet. "I'm not dying tomorrow," Eleanor said with a soft laugh. "At least, I hope not. But I am fading. Some mornings I remember where I am, some mornings I don't. But today I do. And I wanted you to have this while I could still look you in the eye and say thank you." Maya felt her throat tighten. "You gave me back my name," Eleanor said. "Not the one on buildings or on trust papers. The one that breathes. The one that aches. The one that's human." Maya looked down at the envelope again. I don't know if I'm ready to say goodbye. Then don't, Eleanor whispered. Just promise you'll keep looking, keep noticing, keep stopping when the world says hurry. I will, Maya said, voice hoarse. Eleanor's smile faded into something gentler. And when it's your turn to be invisible, I hope someone like you sees you too. Maya stood, her hands trembling now. She placed the envelope carefully into her backpack. They didn't hug. It didn't feel like the kind of moment that needed it. But as Maya reached the door, she turned back one last time. I'll come again, she said. Eleanor nodded. You always have a place here, even after I don't. Outside, the rain had stopped. The sky was pale but clearing. Maya walked back to the gate slowly, watching the way the garden shimmered in the post-storm light. She didn't look at the letter until she got home. When she finally opened it, it wasn't long. Just a single paragraph, written in the same slightly shaky hand as the note on the napkin weeks ago. You do not owe the world a performance. Just keep paying attention. The right moment will always find you, and when it does, act. That's how we pass the light forward. Maya closed the letter and slipped it into her notebook. She didn't cry. Neither had Eleanor. But something about the quiet between their words had left her changed again. Not all gifts are loud. Some whisper. Some sit beside you on a bench, beneath flowers you don't know the names of, and teach you how to hold space for others simply by staying. The letter stayed folded in Maya's notebook, tucked behind her favorite poem like it had always belonged there. She didn't reread it often. She didn't need to. The words had already taken root, quiet reminders that echoed every time she passed someone on the street and looked twice, or paused longer than expected. But the world around her wasn't quiet anymore. Within days of her return from Renford House, the story caught fire again. It began with a photo, an old one of her and Eleanor in the garden, taken by the house staff. Somehow, it made its way online. The caption read, "The girl who reminded a forgotten billionaire what it means to be seen." From there, it spun out of control. News outlets called. Local television stations left voicemails. Her school guidance counselor handed her 3 envelopes from universities she hadn't applied to, each containing a handwritten note from the admissions dean. Then came the video crews. One afternoon, as Maya stepped into the school cafeteria, a cameraman was waiting by the vending machines. Students whispered. One girl tried to sneak a selfie with her in the background. Even the lunch lady offered her an extra chocolate milk, saying, "On the house, sweetie." By the end of the week, she couldn't walk 10 feet without hearing someone say her name not as Maya, but as that girl, or the kindness kid. Her principal called her into the office not for trouble, but to share that the school board was nominating her for a citywide youth leadership award. Georgetown called twice, he added with a proud grin. Twice, Maya. You have no idea what kind of doors are opening for you. But Maya wasn't sure she wanted to walk through those doors. That evening, she sat on the back steps of her building, her knees drawn up, eyes fixed on the fading pink sky. She could hear laughter from an upstairs window, the distant hum of traffic, and somewhere, the rhythmic thud of a basketball on concrete. The noise was everywhere, and yet, she felt strangely alone inside it. Grandma Louise came out with 2 mugs of chamomile tea. She handed one to Maya, then settled beside her on the step. "You've been quiet," she said, not unkindly. "Maya nodded. They're talking about you on the radio, saying you've got wisdom beyond your years." I don't feel wise," Maya murmured. "What do you feel?" "Crowded. Like everyone sees me now, but not really me. Just this version of me they made up." Grandma sipped her tea. "That's fame, baby. It paints over you and calls it a masterpiece." Maya looked down. "I didn't ask for any of it." "I know." A long pause stretched between them. "I miss her," Maya said suddenly. "Not the attention, not the gifts, just her, sitting next to me like I mattered even when I wasn't saving anyone." Grandma smiled softly. "Then maybe you need to go where people still let you be just Maya." That night, Maya wrote a letter to Miss Devereaux. declining the next speaking invitation. Then another to the award committee. She told them thank you, but she wasn't ready. She folded the notes and left them in the office Dropbox before anyone could talk her out of it. The next few days were calmer, but the world had a way of finding her. One afternoon, as she walked home from school, a little boy darted across the street chasing a runaway soccer ball. Maya's heart jumped. She grabbed his arm just before a car turned the corner. The driver braked hard, honked, then drove on. The boy blinked at her, wide-eyed. "Are you okay?" she asked, crouching down. He nodded, clutching the ball. "You're the lady from television." Maya sighed. "I'm just someone who saw you." The boy smiled, then ran off toward a group of kids gathered at the park gate. She stood for a moment, shaken not by the near miss, but by how easily people reduced her again to a headline, a label, a moment. That night, Maya pulled the letter from Eleanor out of her notebook and read it one more time. "You do not owe the world a performance. Just keep paying attention." She traced her finger along the edge of the paper, thinking. The next morning, she asked Grandma for the day off school. "You sick?" Grandma asked, raising an eyebrow. "No," Maya said. "I just need to be where the noise can't reach." Grandma nodded once. "Take my transit card, and eat something first." By noon, Maya was back in Northfield. The gate opened again without being touched, and the housekeeper greeted her with a knowing nod. "She's on the west terrace," she said, "where the hydrangeas grow." Maya found her sitting beneath a broad white umbrella, a wool blanket over her knees, a teacup in hand. "You came back," Eleanor said. "I needed the silence," Maya replied. They didn't speak for a while. The sound of wind rustling leaves filled the space. Somewhere in the distance, a bird sang its one-note song again and again. Finally, Eleanor looked over. "It's loud out there, isn't it? Too loud. And here? It's just right." Eleanor nodded, then reached for a small sketchbook beside her. She flipped it open and handed it to Maya. Inside was a charcoal drawing, simple, but full of motion. A girl with curly hair and a hoodie, standing beside a woman on a bench, both figures small compared to the looming garden behind them. "You drew this?" "With help," Eleanor smiled. "The memory was mine. The lines belonged to someone else." Maya closed the book gently. "Thank you. You reminded me what it means to be seen. But more than that, you reminded me to keep seeing." Maya looked toward the garden. A single petal floated through the air and landed softly on Eleanor's shoulder. She didn't brush it off. She just let it rest there, like it belonged. For the first time in weeks, Maya felt no pressure to speak, no need to explain. She simply existed in full, in quiet, in truth. She had found the silence again, and in it, she'd found herself. The rain began on a Thursday. It started soft, a whisper against the windows, then turned steady, filling the apartment with the gentle rhythm Maya had always found calming. She was seated at the kitchen table with a warm bowl of oatmeal, trying to finish a poem for English class, when the phone rang. Not her cell phone. The landline. The one they hardly ever used unless it was Grandma's friends from church or someone asking about baking tins they forgot to return after the holidays. Maya reached for the receiver. "Hello? Is this Maya Williams?" Her grip on the phone tightened. "Yes. Who's this?" "This is Carter Lynn. Eleanor asked me to call." Maya sat up straighter. Her spoon clinked against the bowl. "She's not well," he continued. "She's resting most of the time now. Not lucid for long stretches. But this morning, she was. And she asked for you." Maya stood. "Can I come? We were hoping you would." Within an hour, she was on the 82 bus again, watching raindrops chase each other across the window. She held her notebook on her lap, the envelope from Eleanor tucked inside its pages. She didn't open it. She just ran her thumb across the crease again and again, as if it held something alive. By the time she arrived at Renford House, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. The gates opened silently, as always, and this time, Carter met her at the front steps. He looked more tired than usual. His usual tailored sharpness was there, but the corners had softened. She's in the conservatory, he said, walking beside her. We moved her there this morning. She asked for sunlight. The hallway was quiet, the kind of quiet that held its breath. As they entered the glass-domed room, Maya saw Eleanor sitting upright in a wicker chaise, wrapped in layers of pale blue blankets. Her eyes were closed at first, but as Maya stepped closer, they opened just a little. You came, Eleanor said, her voice barely louder than a sigh. I'm here, Maya whispered. She sat beside the chair, not speaking, just waiting. For a few minutes, Eleanor said nothing. Her breaths were slow, like the pacing of a distant tide. Then, in a voice thinner than Maya remembered, she asked, Do you still write? Maya nodded. Every day. Eleanor smiled faintly. Good. The world needs more people who choose words before noise. Maya swallowed the tightness in her throat. Do you remember the garden? Eleanor didn't answer right away. Then she said, I remember the way the light hit your face when you sat down, like it had been waiting for you. A tear slipped down Maya's cheek before she could stop it. She wiped it quickly, but Eleanor saw. I'm not afraid, she said. I've lived many lives in one, but that day with you, that was one of the only ones that felt real. Maya took her hand. It was cold, paper thin, but it squeezed hers back. Carter entered quietly, carrying a tray with tea. He set it on the table beside them but said nothing, just offered a nod before stepping back into the shadows. Eleanor's eyes fluttered closed again. They'll tell stories, she murmured. They'll make it shiny, marketable. But you tell the truth. I will, Maya promised. A few moments passed. Rain tapped against the glass like a lullaby. Eleanor stirred once more. I left something for you. Not papers, not money. Something smaller. She pointed weakly toward a nearby dresser. Maya stood and opened the top drawer. Inside, resting atop a folded silk scarf, was a small velvet box. She picked it up carefully and brought it back to Eleanor. Open it, she whispered. Inside was a gold pin shaped like a gardenia. Maya blinked. It's beautiful. Eleanor smiled softly. My mother wore it every Sunday. She used to say, beauty doesn't need to announce itself. Neither do you. Maya pressed the box to her chest. Thank you. They sat in silence once more, but this time it felt fuller, like something complete. That evening, back in South Chicago, Maya stepped off the bus and walked home under the weight of something she couldn't name. The pin still rested in her pocket. Her hand touched it every few steps, as if to remind herself it was real. At home, Grandma had left the porch light on and warm soup on the stove. Was she awake? Grandma asked gently. Maya nodded. She remembered the light. Later, alone in her room, Maya took the gardenia pin from the velvet box and fastened it to the inside of her jacket, not on display, but close enough that she could feel it. Not for others to see, just for her. That night, she didn't write poetry. She simply sat by the window, watching the streetlights flicker through the mist and listening to the quiet hum of life outside. And for the first time since this all began, she allowed herself to feel it fully, not the weight of being seen, but the ache of letting go. Because deep down, she knew. The next time the phone rang, it wouldn't be a call for her to visit. It would be to say goodbye. The letter arrived on a Thursday. It was pale cream, the same color as the envelope Eleanor had once left on Maya's kitchen table. But this one bore no handwritten lines, no soft curves of ink. Just her name, Maya Williamson, careful serif type, centered on the front. Inside, a single card, simple, crisp. The logo of the Renford Trust printed in silver at the top. Beneath it, in clean, professional type, Miss Eleanor Renford passed quietly in her sleep on Wednesday morning. A private memorial will be held at Renford House Conservatory. Sunday, 11 a.m. You are invited. Maya read it 3 times. Then she folded it once and pressed it flat against her chest, eyes closed. She didn't cry. Not at first. Instead, she did what Eleanor had always done in the face of something too large. She moved deliberately. She chose a dress simple, navy blue, with sleeves down to the elbows. She pinned the gardenia brooch to the inside hem, just over her heart. Not for anyone to notice, just to carry her close. She didn't tell anyone at school, not her teachers, not her classmates, not even Grandma, until Saturday evening, when she asked, "You going back to see her?" "She's gone," Maya said softly. Grandma nodded once, then walked over and cupped Maya's chin in her hand. Some people never really leave. Sunday morning broke gray and gentle, the kind of stillness that feels reverent. Maya arrived early. The gates opened for her like they always did. No security guard, no protocol, just silence. The conservatory glowed in the cloudy light, its tall glass panels reflecting the damp sky. Inside, a dozen chairs had been arranged in a semicircle. No velvet ropes, no flower arrangements taller than people. Just one framed photo of Eleanor on a small table. The kind of photo no one would expect, a candid shot of her laughing with her head turned, wind catching her scarf, sunlight in her eyes. It was the photo from the garden. Maya sat near the back. Slowly, others filtered in. Housekeepers, the gardener, a nurse in a gray sweater. Carter Lynn entered last, folding his hands behind his back as he stood near the doorway. There was no minister, no eulogy, no podium. Just Carter, who stepped forward after a long moment and spoke in a voice that barely rose above the hush of the room. She lived longer than most expected, and she left quieter than anyone believed she would. He looked around. His eyes settled on Maya. "You were the only one she asked for by name." Ugh. Maya stood, not because she was ready, but because it was time. She held a small sheet of folded paper, but when she reached the front, she didn't open it. Her eyes went to the photo. She took a breath. "I met her on a curb outside a gas station," she said. She wasn't crying. She wasn't yelling. She just looked, forgotten. She looked down, then up again. I didn't know who she was. I just knew she looked cold and tired, and like maybe no one had looked her in the eyes in a while. There was a stillness in the room now, a holding of breath. She told me once that she'd built empires, that people respected her for being sharp. But the first time I saw her smile was when she said my mother looked kind in a photograph. Maya's fingers curled around the edge of the paper. She didn't need it. She taught me that being seen is more powerful than being known, and that kindness doesn't need a reason, or a stage. Her voice trembled just slightly. "So thank you, Eleanor, for trusting me, for reminding me that the quietest people sometimes leave the loudest echo." She stepped back, Saturday down, and only then allowed the tears to rise. But they didn't fall. They just stayed in her eyes, full and bright. After the service, people moved gently around the room, speaking in hushed voices. Some touched the edge of Eleanor's photo frame. Some nodded silently. Carter approached Maya, handing her a small envelope. "She left this with instructions. Said you'd know what to do with it." Inside was a note. One sentence, handwritten in that now familiar script. "You don't owe the world a performance. Just keep paying attention." Maya smiled through her tears. As the sun broke faintly through the clouds, she wandered into the garden. The bench was still there, empty, waiting. She sat, closed her eyes, listened to the wind in the hedges, the bird song, the faint trickle of the fountain behind her. She didn't speak. She didn't move. She just stayed present. Later, as she walked down the long gravel path back toward the gate, she passed Carter again. He tipped his head. "She changed a lot of lives," he said quietly. Maya looked him in the eye. "She changed mine. Not with money, with presence." And with that, she stepped out of the gates, onto the sidewalk, into a world that had kept spinning even when someone extraordinary had quietly stepped out of it. But Maya knew. Some echo don't fade. Some stay. In the hush, in the light, in the soft memory of a gardenia pinned close to the heart. The package came 1 month later, wrapped in thick parchment paper and sealed with a wax stamp bearing the crest of the Renford Trust. It was addressed not to Maya's home but to her school, and the secretary who handed it to her looked puzzled, as though trying to guess how a girl like her could receive something so elegant. Maya thanked her quietly, slid the package into her backpack, and waited until the school bell rang before retreating to her favorite spot under the old sycamore tree behind the Jaiman-overlooked corner of the campus, where no one interrupted her thoughts. The wrapping crackled as she peeled it open, and inside she found a slender wooden box. She lifted the lid slowly, heart tight in her chest. Inside was a set of 5 letters, each folded with care and tied together with deep green thread. And beneath them, resting in velvet, was a delicate gold chain holding a locket, a photo of Eleanor in her youth on one side, and on the other Maya's mother, laughing in a garden. Her breath caught. For a long time, she didn't move. Then, with trembling hands, she untied the thread and opened the first letter. Maya, if you're reading this, I've already gone somewhere quieter, but before I did, I made sure your voice would carry farther than mine ever did. The letter went on, gentle yet firm, filled with Eleanor's observations and hopes. She wrote of their conversations, the little moments Maya probably didn't realize mattered, and how those moments had helped her rediscover something long buried: faith. Not the religious kind, the human kind. You didn't rescue me, Maya. You recognized me. That was more powerful than saving. The second letter was more formal. It came from the legal office of the Renford Trust, and outlined the establishment of a scholarship fund in Maya's name, the Maya Williams Fellowship for Quiet Strength, fully endowed. Designed to support young women of color pursuing studies in social justice, psychology, and community leadership. Eleanor had named Maya as the honorary co-chair. The trust would call on her for public events, speaking engagements when she was ready. Maya blinked rapidly, her fingers hovering over the page. The third letter was shorter, just 1 sentence long. Pay attention to the ones everyone ignores, that's where the truth usually hides. The fourth was a list. Names, addresses, contacts. People Eleanor had come to regret alienating. People she wanted Maya to meet, not to make amends, but to learn from. Each name came with a note. Ask her about the night her restaurant almost burned. Ask him why he left the courtroom shaking. It wasn't homework. It was a map. The fifth and final letter simply said, "Come home." Maya clutched that letter the longest. That weekend, she made her way back to Renford House. Not through the front gates this time, but through the garden path. Carter met her at the conservatory entrance, holding a folder. She left instructions, he said. If you came back, she wanted you to have full access. To what? He handed her the folder. Inside were floor plans, blueprints, a deed. The estate is now under the stewardship of the Maya Williams Trust. It won't be sold. It won't be broken apart. It'll be transformed into a place of listening. Maya's knees felt weak. Why me? Carter placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Because you didn't wait for permission to care. That's leadership. She spent the next weeks walking the halls with contractors, sitting in on calls with board members, visiting local youth centers, listening more than speaking. When people asked about her age, her background, her qualifications, she simply replied, "I knew Eleanor. That's enough for now." And somehow, it always was. Renford House changed slowly. The grand ballroom became a community discussion space, with round tables and worn couches. The guest wing opened its doors to a residential mentoring program. The garden, Eleanor's favorite place, was kept exactly as it was, save for one addition, a brass bench plaque that read, "To the girl who saw me." At the first anniversary event, Maya stood in front of an audience of donors, youth leaders, and community members. She wore the gold locket under her collar and carried no notes. Her voice was steady as she said, "You don't need a fortune to leave a legacy. You don't need power to see someone. And you don't need to be loud to change a life." She paused, looked out over the crowd, and smiled. Sometimes all it takes is a hand. The room held its breath. Then, one by one, people stood, not in applause, just in solidarity. Afterward, a young girl approached. She was maybe 10, dark braids pulled back tight, eyes wide with nervousness. "Are you Maya?" she asked. Maya crouched to her level. "I am." The girl held out a folded napkin. "My grandma said I should give you this." Maya opened it. Inside was a single gardenia petal, pressed flat. She blinked, then pulled the locket from beneath her collar and showed it to the girl. "Your grandma knew Eleanor. She said they used to pick flowers together, a long time ago." Maya's throat tightened. "Tell her thank you, and tell her she's always welcome here." As the sun dipped below the trees, casting long shadows across the conservatory glass, Maya stood beneath the archway where Eleanor once tripped and turned. She looked out over the lawn where the tables had been set, the laughter rising from conversations, the candles flickering like fireflies. And for the first time in a long time, she felt it not just Eleanor's presence, but her own, whole, rooted, seen. Because Eleanor had given her more than opportunity. She'd passed on the most sacred gift a person can give another, belief. Maya whispered softly into the dusk. "I see you too." And somewhere, in the hush between the wind and the stars, it felt like someone answered.